Buen día, muchachos. Para quien no me conoce, soy Jalen, más conocido como Quick Temper en las redes sociales. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 5 things that I wish I knew or that I could change. If I could go back in time, I would change these things in my Spanish journey. If you don't follow me or this is your first time seeing me, you know, I speak Spanish, I speak English, I speak both. I have a job where I use my Spanish. I am a part of a family now. My wife and her family speak Spanish, so I have a good idea of what it takes to speak Spanish. If you don't follow me, go watch my old videos. You can see probably from like 5 or 6 months in to where I'm at now. So, like I said, I got a good idea of what it takes, and I'm going to tell you some things that I would change if I could go back in time so you can avoid these pitfalls. Number one, I would talk first and learn grammar later. I'm a real cerebral person, right? I want to know the rules for everything. I want to like try to sound good. I want to do things well. I'm not a perfectionist per se, but I care. I care. And so I tried to originally attack Spanish by reading grammar books, trying to take notes, do flashcards, all kinds of stuff, Duolingo, all different kinds of applications. And whenever it came time to talk, I basically just couldn't, and I would give up. I would say there was 2 times that were significant times where I just was like, I can't learn it. I give up. And that was after high school. And then another time when I approached it from a Duolingo perspective. If you want to know the story of how I eventually got back into it, go watch the video. It's on my page. But once I started just talking and I just abandoned the grammar side of things, my grammar got better. I understood everything a lot more just from talking, literally from talking, because talking is a specific skill. And if you do not talk, you will not be good at talking. I promise you. I don't care what anyone tells you on the internet or on YouTube or whatever, you will not get good at talking by not talking. I'm not even going to go in depth into that because it's kind of self explanatory, right? Learn how to talk just like a little kid. Little kids learn how to talk, then they go to grammar school when they're like 7 years old or something like that. You can do the exact same thing. Number 2, care about conjugations and mood tenses, right? For the same reason that I didn't want to talk, I didn't want to expose myself to higher grammar structures in conversation. I didn't want to learn the future. I'm like, oh, I don't really need to know the future. I just need to know how to say this in the present tense. And then once I got a handle of the present tense, I learned the past. I started to learn the future, and I would still say, well, I don't need to know the subjunctive. That's like, oh, if I'm doing like hypotheticals, I just won't do hypotheticals and blah, blah, blah. But it's deeper than that. English is a relatively neutral language. Spanish isn't. The indicative is very factual, is very absolute. If you do not speak with the subjunctive mood, you're just speaking incorrectly. And it's hard to say it better than that. Someone might understand you just because they're a native speaker, but you are just speaking incorrectly. Okay? Like, learn the things that you would say in English in Spanish. And that's one of my tips, actually, that I give people. Like, anytime I have a conversation in English, well, back then, anytime I had a conversation in English, I would think, can I say this in Spanish? And if I couldn't, I would figure it out, because you're basically living the same life in another language. If you start talking to people in Spanish, you're going to talk about the same things. It might be a little bit different because of cultural things, but basically the same thing. Learn how to conjugate as if you were speaking in your own language. We talk in the past tense a lot. What did you do today? What did you eat today? How was work? How was school? How was this? You don't only want to be able to speak in the present tense. Or if someone would ask you, what would you do if you won $1 million? You don't want to answer and say, I buy a house. You can, but if someone asks you that in English, you say, I would give this to my mom. I would buy this. You want to be able to express yourself, right? This is what this whole journey is about. It's about communicating ourselves and having conversations with people. Don't deprive yourself of that just because you don't want to feel embarrassed or you want to be a perfectionist, right? So, number 3, fluency is subjective, and it's very subjective, actually. There might be all kinds of definitions and ways that you can measure your fluency, but at the end of the day, you want to have conversations. You want to be able to communicate yourself. If I take a test and it says I'm the most fluent man in the world, but when I go to the gym, which is like somewhere that I'm at all the time, I'm a strength and conditioning coach and I compete in Olympic weightlifting. If I can't talk about my sport and I can't talk about my job, what am I talking about? You know, like why would I not want to talk about my own life? So when I'm on these applications, learning about elephants and dinosaurs and stuff like that, which is cool. Sometimes you talk about that stuff. You know, I'm never talking about las sentadillas, squats, right? Los flexiones, like los jalones, los despegues. I'm never talking about this stuff because that's not a typical that's not a typical life. People work in offices usually and things like that. So it didn't really apply to me. And I quickly figured that out when I would talk in Spanish and someone would say, "What's your job? What do you do?" And I'm like, and I would freeze up because I'm like, "Ooh, I did not learn this on the app." But that is literally the reason that you have conversations. You get better. You talk about your job with one person, and you're like, "Next time, I won't be able to say this because they filled in those gaps for me, or I'm aware of those gaps now. I can go look it up myself or whatever, right?" So all of these points will always boil back down to getting out there and talking to people, but little stuff in between, right? Number 4, I would take off the English subtitles on shows that I watched. When I started watching shows in Spanish, I'm not gonna say I was scared, but I just don't like the incompleteness of not knowing something. So I'm like, nah, I need the English subtitles on. So if I miss a word or if I miss this, I'll get the definition. But our brains are lazy. I won't even say lazy. They're efficient. They always take the path of least resistance, right? Or the path of less resistance, however you want to say it. So if you don't know a word and you could figure it out contextually, your brain's still gonna look down at that English subtitle and fill it in, and it's not gonna work to fill that gap. Whereas if you heard a word, and you didn't have anything to tell you what it was, you would figure it out. And if you didn't figure it out that time, you would figure it out the next time. If I put some things on my ears, and you're like, "What are those?" And I tell you they're headphones, you'll remember it. Or even if I just say, "I don't like these headphones," and you've never heard the word headphones before, you might be like, headphones? And then you see me listen to my music, and you're like, "I think the headphones are the things he just put on his ears." The next time you saw the headphones and someone said headphones and they put them on, you would say, "Oh, okay, like, yeah, the things you listen to music with, they're called headphones," right? So take the English subtitles off. If you're watching a show that you could understand without English subtitles, then do it. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult. It's tough. I actually like watching shows in English with the subtitles on, just because sometimes it's hard to hear characters, right? But in this case, at least put the Spanish subtitles on. You, like I said, if you're watching something that's so difficult that you can't understand it with Spanish subtitles, that might be a little bit too advanced of a show for you in that moment. And so just, take a step down, watch some stuff with Spanish subtitles or with no subtitles. I used to watch lots of cartoons like Magic School Bus and anime and all kinds of stuff where there's lots of action and they're doing stuff and they're holding stuff up and saying it so that it could, guardar. Yeah, so number 5, last one. I would change my perspective and I would take advantage of way more opportunities. During my journey, there's been countless times where people invited me to either like YouTube group sessions, or they're like, "Hey, my friend speaks Spanish. You want to practice your Spanish with him?" And I'm like, No, I'm good, man. I just want to blah, blah, blah. I had a coworker that spoke Spanish, and in the beginning, I was just so embarrassed that I was like, no, don't even speak to me in Spanish, bro. Like, wait till I get here. Wait a month. Wait 3 months. Wait 6 months. Wait till I get here, and then I'll be ready. But the thing is, you'll never be ready. It's always going to be scary. You're literally taking on an entire new language. Like, your first language took years for you to learn as a kid. It's not an easy task. No matter what anyone says, oh, learn to speak Spanish fluently, easily. It won't be easy, but it is fun. And it is exciting. And I wish I would have looked at it like that more in my beginning days. Even only just getting a couple words off. When I first started having conversations, I would feel very satisfied and fulfilled and excited about having like the most basic conversations ever. And I was like, why didn't I just start doing this? Why did I wait 6 months just to stumble around in the conversation anyways? Because it's one thing to do something and it's another thing to study it, right? If you have literally never sprinted or jogged or did anything with your legs in your life, no disrespect to disabled people, but if you read about sprinting and you're just like, oh, I just apply the force to the ground and propel myself forward, and then I cycle my knee up and I blah blah blah, and you're like, that's pretty easy. I can't wait to get out there and run. When you take off, you're probably gonna fall. Sprinting is not easy. It's tough. Running is hard. You don't know what it feels like to have lactic acid in your legs. You don't know what it feels like to run on an incline. You don't know what it feels like to trip over a rock on the ground. There's a lot of stuff that you can't prepare for just by reading. And the reading doesn't give you the feeling. It doesn't give you the anxiety of the event, right? So you could read super smoothly. You could listen to something and say, I understood all of that. And you have a real life conversation, and there's an anxiety and excitement that comes with having a conversation, because you have to pay attention. You have to be focused. The person says something to you and there's like an expectation that you say it back in a reasonable amount of time, and you're not just like sitting in your room going, how would I say this? Like the person's asking you a question. You need to respond right now. You don't have all the time in the world. So it's cool. But like I said, it's exciting. And I wish I thought of it like that. I wish I took every opportunity I got to speak Spanish instead of saying, no, give me another month, give me another 3 months. Just do it, bro. Just look at the positives. Look at the positive possibilities instead of the negative possibilities, because everyone's always like, oh, well, people might laugh at me. I might not be able to do this. It might be embarrassing. Yeah, it might be, but it might be fun. It might be exciting. You might feel embarrassed anyways for not doing it. So why not gain something and feel embarrassed maybe, instead of feeling embarrassed about feeling embarrassed? That's what I've been telling myself pretty much my whole life for everything. That's how I do things that I'm afraid of. I'm just like, you know what? The feeling that I'm scared of could happen anyways. So I might as well do it and have that feeling and gain something from it, right? Instead of just being scared and not doing it, I'm going to be scared and do it and walk away with something positive. So if you have any questions, if you want to know anything, leave me a comment. I'll respond to it. Maybe I'll make a video about it. I read all you guys' comments. I appreciate all you guys. I love helping people learn a new language. So let me know if you need anything. Share this video, like it, subscribe. I don't think I've ever said it on a video before. So I think I'm officially a YouTuber now. Y'all have a good day. Peace.